Hello and welcome to the PowerShell for Linux Users video series. I never imagined that I would say this, but PowerShell has some useful things that Linux doesn't have. I know, coming from me it's like heresy. But in any case, in this video we will cover the basic PowerShell commands for getting around the file system. And then I'm going to show you how PowerShell may be better than the Linux shell. First thing to get started is that you need a terminal window where we can type PowerShell commands. Let's begin by launching the PowerShell application. To do this, you can click on the search box on the bottom and then start typing the words PowerShell. And then at some point, you're going to notice that you're going to have a few different options to run PowerShell. You can open just PowerShell by itself, which will give you a shell without admin privileges, so you won't be able to access certain files and folders. If you don't like that, you can open PowerShell with admin rights. Then there are the options to open the ISE, which is the Integrated Scripting Environment, and that gives you a graphical user interface that allows users to write and debug PowerShell scripts. And it's much easier than using the vanilla command line. In plain PowerShell, you get just a black window and you can start typing in the commands. In the ISE version, you can see that there is a blue window plus the menu bar, the toolbar, the scripts tabs, script pane, console pane, a status bar, and then context-sensitive help. Sadly, the ISE is no longer in active feature development, and there is no support for the ISE in PowerShell version 6 and beyond, because you're supposed to switch to Visual Studio Code instead. That's okay, we can still use PowerShell 5 here, that's preloaded into my Windows 11 system. So let's talk about the command line and what it looks like. Usually it looks something like this. Right? You're going to have the words PS, which indicate that you are in PowerShell, as opposed to the regular command prompt. And then the next section is the path name of where you currently are located. So basically right now we are in the Blue Monkey Forensics home directory under the /user folder. And the last thing is the greater than symbol that tells you the shell is ready for your commands. Note that the command prompt can be customized to contain different information, like you can have the current user in there, you can have the path where the command prompt is at, you can have the execution time of the last command, etc. But that's beyond the scope of this video. Leave a comment below if you are interested in how to modify your prompt. And the commands that you type into the prompt are called commandlets. Okay, and the syntax for commandlets is typically verb-noun. For example, we're going to have this command called get-date, right, which will return the system's date and time. The verb is get, which tells the system to retrieve data, and the noun is date, which is the resource on which the commandlet performs its action. Alright, so the first command to help us navigate the file system is get-location. Once you hit the enter key, what it is going to do is come back with your current location within the file system. So in this case, I am under C:/users/Blue Monkey Forensics. The importance of this command is that it tells you where you are, so that if you are writing a script, this command will confirm the working directory so that the rest of the commands will be executed in the proper context. Now that we know where we are at, the next command we're going to look at is a command that will take us somewhere else. In order to go somewhere else in the file system, the command that we're going to use is set-location. What we can do is that we can type set-location and then space and then -path to specify the destination of where we want to go. Let's say we want to go to the downloads folder of the user that is logged in. So you can type set-location, -path, and then downloads. And notice the command prompt, we now have switched over to the downloads folder. And we can get lazy and actually skip the -path parameter. All right, so you can just do set-location and then give it the full path, like say /windows/system32/config. And notice again, because we are running in the ISE, there is context assistance, so we don't have to type the entire path. Once you see the suggestion of what it thinks we want to go, you can just hit the tab to accept the highlighted suggestion. And we can use a shortcut to go up one level from where we currently are by using the ... construct. So if we do set location ... and then we hit enter, notice we are now in C:/Windows/system32, having gone up one level from the config folder. And we can type get location to verify. Okay, and now if we want to go up a few levels, we can stack up the dots by separating them by a backslash. So you can do set -location ... backslash ... backslash. And now this puts us at the top of the C drive. Okay, so we looked at finding out where we are and how to go somewhere. Now let's take a look at the next logical thing, which is looking at the contents of that particular folder. So to list out the contents, you can use the commandlet called get-ChildItem. And we will again use the path parameter to specify where to look at the files. So I'm going to go ahead and do get-ChildItem-path C:/users. And we can see that there are only two folders here, Blue Monkey Forensics and Public. And if we want to take a look at what's in the Blue Monkey Forensics folder, I can type get-ChildItem C:/users/Blue Monkey Forensics. Once again, I can skip the -path, and the command knows that that's what we mean. So here we see a whole bunch of files. And again, you can use the tab complete so you can minimize your typos and save some time. Now, much like Linux commands could have many options to a command, there are also commandlets with many parameters. Get-ChildItem has a good number of parameters that we can use. Let's see some common ones. For example, if I want to see what files are in the subfolders of a particular folder, I can add the -depth parameter. So let me go ahead and set the location to C:/users. And then from here, I'm going to do get-ChildItem-D for depth. And then the number 9 for 9 levels of Blue Monkey Forensics. And so you can see all basically the subfolders of Blue Monkey Forensics. And I can add a filter to show me only the file names that have the .log extension. So I do that by specifying the wildcard star.log. So get-ChildItem-D9 star.log. Right, so now we can see that there's only a few folders and subfolders that have anything that ends in a .log extension. Now let's take a look at something really cool. With the get-ChildItem commandlet, in addition to viewing the file system, we can also view the registry. So if we do set-location-path, and then specify the HKLM:/system, now we're actually in the system registry. That is just so cool. And we can take a look at the contents of this registry. We can use the get-ChildItem commandlet. So get-ChildItem-path, HKLM:/system. And we can see all kinds of information, including the mounted devices subkey. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that PowerShell is better than the Linux shell. And what makes PowerShell better is that PowerShell is object-oriented. PowerShell treats data as objects instead of just simple strings, which allows for more complex data structures that can be subject to more efficient data transactions. Linux shells, on the other hand, typically rely on the user's text processing abilities to use tools like awk and grep and sed in order to get other data or filter down the data. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's something that I've been used to over the last many years, but it is just really cool that PowerShell actually just has objects built in. So as we have seen before, you can use the get-ChildItem to list out the files in the current directory, right? So get-ChildItem. So we see a whole bunch of files here. And now what we can do is, instead of just spitting the output to the screen like we did, you can actually set a variable. So we can do $files equal get-ChildItem. So now the variable files will contain the output of get-ChildItem, which again in PowerShell is not just a string of text that shows you what files are there, but it is actually objects that contain data. To show you what I mean, let's go ahead and do $files and then bracket 0 bracket. Right, so this is the first element of files, and the output is basically the first file here, which is .android. And then by default, the info that it shows us is the mode, the last write time, and the length, and then the name. So let's do another one. Let's do number 5 instead of number 0. So if we're looking at this list here, if Android is number 0, number 5 should be the folder called contacts. And sure enough, the PowerShell returns data from the object for contacts, right, giving us the mode, the last written time, the length, and then the name. But like I said before, the returned items are objects, so there's definitely more in here. So what I can do is, in addition to looking at number 5, which is the contacts, I actually want to look at the creation time in UTC, right? Because this is one of the data stored in this object. And sure enough, it spits out Saturday, July 13th, 2024, and then the timestamp. So this data wasn't on the screen before, right? In the last command we did, it just showed us the last written time. But now we actually wanted the creation time, which, was there all the time. It just wasn't revealed because by default, the object didn't print that. And then lastly, just to show another one, we can just look at the last write time again. And then now you can see that this matches what's on the default printout. So this is very cool that the objects come back and there's all kinds of data in there. If you know all the methods that are available to access those objects, this is very, very, very powerful. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video where we learned about 3 basic commands. Get location to find out where you are in the file system. Set location to change the directory to another location within the file system. And then get-ChildItem to list out contents of a folder or an object in general. And lastly, we were exposed to the power of objects with looking at the get-ChildItem commandlet. For another video on being a Windows Power user, watch this video here. Leave a comment below and make sure you click on the blue monkey to subscribe. Thanks for your time and happy hunting.